That's it. It's over. This historic 2020 NBA championship belongs to the Los Angeles Lakers.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of the Lakers Outsiders podcast brought to you by UCast Studios. And before I even introduce myself and my co-host, I just want to crack open a nice cold one. Ladies and gentlemen, the Los Angeles Lakers are your 2020 NBA champions. Oh my goodness.
Let's go.
It feels so good to say that. Honi is not drinking this evening, so I came prepared for each one of these that I drink. I will drink one for him as well.
Beautiful.
So just celebrate responsibly. Don't celebrate like me. But
don't drink in podcast, kids.
Yeah, it's dangerous. We're gonna find out real quick. I might make some ridiculous bet like buying another Rondo jersey, which is something I have to do now. I made my bed and I have to lay in it. But hey, after how he played at various points of this postseason run, it's money I'm happy to spend. So, what's going on, everybody? I'm Gary Kester here with you as always, joined again as always by Honi Ahmadian. Honi, what else is there to say, man? This team, credit to the Miami Heat for making this a very, very difficult series, even though they were outmatched from a talent standpoint, I think. Man, they were a hell of an opponent, but at the end of the day, this Lakers team just finds a way, like they did all year long, and they're NBA champions.
Yeah, I mean, there were two very resilient parties today. One was the Los Angeles Lakers, who have battled through a lot of issues all year long, and been able to really pretty much dominate the playoffs, but with some shaky moments in there. And the other resilient party was me, who finally got a series prediction right. Lakers in 6, baby. Let's go. Give me my flowers.
I forgot all about that. I'm a little upset now. Hey, I'll give it to you. I mean, I still beat you 3-1, but it's okay. You got the most important one, so I will
exactly
give you the hat tip on that one. Lakers in 6. Very easily could have been Lakers in 5, but man, this game was unbelievable. I went in fully expecting my heart to be pounding out of my chest for 48 minutes, and it pounded for 16, 18 minutes, and it was like, damn, what is going on here? Like, this Lakers team, man, just when you thought, I apologize to everybody. We didn't pod after the Game 5 loss. Combination of Honi and I were very upset, and I also did not have a voice left. I was still kind of recovering a little bit. But I literally had no voice. Like, you guys would not have been able to hear me. It would have just been awful. So I apologize for that. And I apologize getting on to this so late. We kind of wanted to just let people soak this in. I didn't want to just jump on while players were doing interviews and all this stuff. I mean, we got to see Alex Caruso up at the podium with no shirt on. I'm pretty sure the entire team has no shirt on at this point.
JR took his shirt off before the final buzzer sounded. Come on.
Hey, that's an NBA champion. Like, he's been here before. He knows what the deal is. He was ready to go as soon as that clock hit triple zeros. It was beautiful. Just absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, man. This was the most dominant the Lakers have looked all year long, and it came at the perfect time, man. That was just a master class of a game, especially defensively. And man, we can't say enough about how incredible this team has been all year, but this time around it was perfect. It was a perfect basketball game from them. And to do that in Game 6 of the NBA Finals against a team that is such a hardworking team and doesn't make anything easy for anybody, and has shown it throughout the series. They've taken the Lakers to more games than any of their other playoff opponents. To do that now in this moment and get these big performances from your two stars and all these role players, that was just phenomenal. It was just a perfect ending to this really incredible season.
Yeah, I think it's something that Pete Zayas, a.k.a. Laker Film Room, has brought up. And shout out to Pete Zayas. I think Pete gets a championship ring since he's a member of the Lakers, and that's awesome, man. That's so awesome to see his rise, and it results in him getting a championship ring. I'm pretty sure, at least, that he'll get one. But if not, I mean, he could say He's part of the Lakers when they won an NBA title. That's pretty awesome to say and to see such a great dude get that honor. So, but he's said multiple times that this Lakers team has a gear that the other teams just don't, and we saw that tonight with these guys committed to the defensive end. I thought they had a lot of, my spirits were a little. My spirits were hit a little bit with the last loss, because it's like, man, this Miami team is very resilient. You just gave them a little bit of hope, and now they're looking at this as like, all we gotta do is win two games, and we can come back and win this thing. And it felt like the Lakers really squandered an opportunity to win the title. But man, we've been saying it that this Heat team was so resilient, so good. They're so well coached. They're so tough. I can't say enough good things. I mean, I was rooting for them coming out of the East because I just loved how they operated. They were very annoying to play against because they were so good. And Jimmy Butler, man, credit to that guy. I don't know if he just ran out of gas in this game or what, but he was phenomenal up until this point, and I have so much respect for that guy. So much respect. But the Lakers hit that gear that these other teams just couldn't, and that especially that first half, man, was a masterful defensive performance. And even Frank Vogel said we're in the midst of a defensive masterpiece right now. And he wasn't lying. Like, it was just unreal, the level of intensity that they played at defensively. And, I mean, Miami, I thought in the first quarter had some looks that they probably were hitting earlier in the series that they didn't make. But everything they had to work for. Anthony Davis was a beast defensively once again. And this team, I mean, there just weren't those breakdowns that we had seen in those two losses in this series, and even in some of the wins. Some of the wins, there was just kind of some slippage with focus and stuff like that. And in this game, I mean, you didn't really see that until the fourth quarter when it was just so far out of reach that it didn't really matter. This team, it was nice to see that they really exemplified one last time that when we play our best, we're just better than you. It doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah, I mean, it was so rare in this game to see any real mistakes made by the Lakers. Everything that the Heat got, like you said, it was late in the shot clock. It was through a lot of work. And, man, Anthony Davis, there were a lot of people on the Bird app calling him soft after the last game. And that dude just came back, with an injury, with Vogel saying that they were hoping adrenaline would fuel him through this game because of the pain. And boy, I don't know if it was adrenaline or what it was, but that dude, he was blowing up every pick and roll. He was just swatting shots at the rim. He was doing everything defensively. And that's not to take credit away from the rest of the Lakers, who all played phenomenally on that end of the floor. But everything that the Lakers do on that end is through Anthony Davis. And, having a defensive player of the year, you know what? I'm just going to call him the defensive player of the year out there, and having that just that advantage over every team is just incredible. And when he's playing his best, then the Lakers are. It feels almost like they're unstoppable because offensively they got another dude named LeBron James that can carry the load for them.
He's pretty good at basketball, I would say. LeBron.
Yeah, I would say he's done decent for himself.
He's better at basketball than most people are at most things. So, no, there were a lot of times where I thought AD was guarding multiple players at once in this game, especially on those pick and roll coverages where he's kind of, he's kind of close enough to where he knows he can bother the shot, but he's also getting back to the roll man, and he's just such a disruptor defensively. And there was a lot of discussion, I think, in the second half because the game was so far out of reach. Like, oh well, who now? All we have to figure out is who the Finals MVP is. And I typically don't care about that sort of thing. I didn't really care about this one either. To me, the defensive MVP was clearly Anthony Davis, just a monster on that end, pretty much all series long. And offensively, it was LeBron James. I mean, AD shot 7 of 17 in this game. Not his best offensive game, but man, 19 points, 15 boards. Remember, I mean, the Nuggets series, people kept talking about his low rebounding numbers and all this. What a way to go out, right? 19 and 15. Yeah. Defensively, just masterful performance defensively from him and the whole team. I know Danny Green only shot 4 of 10, but it was really nice to see him hit 3 threes after the BS that he had to deal with over the last 48 hours. And KCP, man, Unbelievable. I don't know for sure if the burner account is him or not, but he never told a lie. He called it and said it was done. Game 6 was going to be the last one, and I mean he was so good defensively, chasing Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero all night, and it didn't really hurt him offensively either. I mean, he only hit 2 threes, but 17 points, 6 of 13 shooting. Just another great game for him. And Alex Caruso, I mean, I'm wearing my Caruso shirt. Like, had to wear it. Caruso gets... I don't think Caruso gets talked about enough in terms of his journey, right?
Yeah.
Like, this dude had to scratch and claw on a Summer League roster to get noticed with a team that had just drafted, presumably their franchise point guard for the foreseeable future, Alonzo Ball. And Caruso just shined. He just continued to shine and just continued to work his way up. And he went from a G League guy, just scratching and clawing on a Summer League team to starting in the NBA Finals. And this is the lineup I had been really waiting to see. I think I said it on one of these pods, or maybe we were talking about it off air a little while back. But I really wanted to see the Caruso, KCP, Danny Green, LeBron, AD lineup. Because I feel like it wasn't a lineup we really saw very much.
Yeah.
And man,
definitely didn't.
that honestly might be the Lakers' death lineup. Like, they were so good in this game.
I think before this game, regular season and playoffs, and I might have this number slightly off, but I think they had played a total of 47 minutes together, that lineup.
Yeah.
And it's just unbelievable. They were amazing, and it made so much sense. Credit to Frank Vogel for doing this. People don't really make lineup changes up 3-2 in Game 6 of the NBA Finals. Nobody really does this. The ballsiness to bench Dwight Howard and put in Caruso over anybody else was just phenomenal. You have KCP and Caruso running around screens to defend the Heat shooters and Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson. You're matching up perfectly with them. You got Danny Green matching up perfectly with Jay Crowder, and it's letting him kind of play in the passing lanes. You got LeBron and AD being able to basically switch between Bam and Jimmy Butler perfectly, and I think that set the tone so well defensively. And if you look at Caruso's numbers, they're not going to blow you out of the water. But I believe he led the team in plus minus again.
Plus 20.
Obviously, yep. Obviously, our little agenda here only using some of them plus minus for Alex Caruso reasons. But he was amazing, and it's just so cool. You're right. Like we've kind of joked about this underdog Lakers thing for months now. And partially in jest and partially because they clearly were the underdogs all year long, and this was a true Cinderella story. But Alex Caruso is an underdog story, man. Like coming from Texas A&M to being undrafted to being in the G League and starting in the NBA Finals and giving that performance and winning a championship is so effing cool. And he did it all in 3 years in the NBA, while being basically called a meme for his entire career because he's a balding white guy, which fair, but also he's really effing good, and he really showed it. And he's just one of the very many amazing stories on this Lakers team, and one of the very many players that I'm just so happy for this to happen to them.
That's the thing is like all year he's just a meme, whatever, just a meme, whatever. No, this guy's an impactful basketball player, and I hope he's on the Lakers for several years to come because this dude plays defense at a very high level, and offensively, his offensive production is going to come and go. Today, I mean, he had 5 assists in this game. I mean, that was second on the team behind LeBron's 10. That's not really something I think at the start of the year you would have expected Caruso to really bring you offensively. Is setting up some of these other guys, and one of those assists was to LeBron coming down the lane and throwing down a dunk plus the foul that just got me. I mean, I was out of my chair most of the game, but it was just a beautiful thing to watch, and he's such a cool story, and to see his hard work, it paid off, and I know NBA Twitter has to be so pissed that Alex Caruso is an NBA champion, and it just warms my heart. And I mean, your wife is probably, she probably took notice of AC Fresh, so you better watch out.
I'm not against the love triangle, Especially after seeing AC at that presser, I'm like, yeah, I get it. I understand.
Oh, shout out to Alex Caruso, man. I'm so glad he's a part of this team, and I'm glad he's going to be on the team again next year, and I'm excited to see what his future holds. And man, if that guy becomes a more consistent 3-point shooter, look out. That's going to be really fun to watch. But all right, let's talk about LeBron James. We got to talk about LeBron. I mean, because I have a lot of thoughts about LeBron, not only with this game, this series, but just I don't know what he's done already for this franchise. Because when he joined the Lakers, I believe the Lakers were a 35-win team, had a bunch of youngsters on the team. You know, I don't know what his thought process was. I don't know if he thought, oh, I can grow it, or I can really groom these young guys and we can get better. Or if he thought, hey, there's a lot of trade pieces here and we can get a quality star player next to me and we can really right the ship. But, man, like I said, when he came here, this was a 35. It was either 35 or 37. I think it was 35. But but they're a team that didn't sniff the playoffs. They were in the middle of a playoff drought. They were rebuilding. And he still came here, and it took 2 years for him. Obviously, not him alone. Obviously, getting Anthony Davis is massive. Rob Pelinka and Jeannie Buss and the entire front office, and even Magic Johnson deserves credit for recruiting LeBron to come be a Laker. But the fact that he's now the only player in NBA history to win Finals MVP for 3 different franchises, which is just amazing to say, because, you know, as much as I think a lot of people want to see superstars play an entire career with one team or whatever, and how that's kind of cool, like we saw it with Kobe and Dirk and Tim Duncan, like those kind of guys, it speaks volumes to LeBron's impact and his legacy that he's gone to 3 different franchises that were not really close to, when he got there, to sniffing an NBA championship. And he got it done for all 3. I mean, Miami was solid when he signed, and obviously adding Bosch with Wade was huge. But his impact, not only with those other 2 teams, the Cleveland and Miami, but with the Lakers, and how quickly he's helped transform this team from being in the lottery every year to NBA champion. You know, he spearheaded kind of the whole thing. It's been just remarkable to watch. And in this series, he's going to be 36 in 2 months, and he's still out here, the best player in the world, and just doing some ridiculous, like in this game, 28 points, 14 boards, 10 assists. This guy is just something else. And, you know, I don't like to compare players between eras, so like I don't really dive into the whole LeBron versus Jordan debate or whatever, but just appreciate this guy while he's still playing, because this is just, it's unbelievable how long this guy has been this good. Like, Father Time is undefeated, but man, LeBron is giving Father Time everything it can handle. It's unreal.
There's not really a lot more you can say about LeBron. He's done it all. His legacy is pretty secure with or without this title, as at least a top 2 player in NBA history. But watching it up close, the way that we got to watch it this year, is just an entirely different thing. You know, it's one thing to observe it from afar and be like, wow, LeBron is obviously an amazing player and he's winning titles for all these franchises. But seeing the way that he turned this franchise around, you know, obviously credit to a lot of other people as well, but him coming here was truly the turning point. Unless you want to say KCB coming here was the turning point, which I won't argue against.
First domino.
But the way it's just this like power that he holds on and off the court, and it feels like he knows exactly every chess move that needs to happen at all times, and that all just kind of feeds into how great of a basketball player he is in general, in terms of just the physical abilities and skill sets. But he's just always so far ahead of everybody else. And I mean, speaking of underdog stories, this is a dude who went through a lot of hardships early in his life, with his family, with his a single mother, and living through poverty, and to kind of come into this situation and become arguably the greatest ever at what he does, and doing it in so many different situations, so many different circumstances. Oh, and by the way, through it all, being just a class act off the court, and doing all these incredible things for his community, and just being such a great person. I've felt so blessed, even if they hadn't won this championship. I felt so blessed to be able to root for him on my favorite basketball team. It's something that obviously isn't as important as a lot of the other things that LeBron does in terms of the people that it impacts, but it was just really cool being a front row supporter of him, and seeing how amazing he is in so many different ways.
Yeah, man, it's it's unreal the impact that he's had on the court, off the court, just everything. I mean, he's just a special dude, man, just really, really special. And he was asked today about just basically how long does he think he can play and all this stuff, but he I think he basically echoed my thoughts, is that he's got a lot of good basketball still left in him, and he didn't want to put a cap on when really he's going to be when he's going to hang it up or anything, because I don't think really anybody knows until they know for sure. But just the Lakers are very blessed to have this guy, and especially the circumstances this year that the team really had to overcome. Obviously, everybody in the NBA had to deal with some very odd circumstances, some very difficult circumstances. But I remember thinking the Lakers, when they were dealing with the Kobe tragedy and everything, I was like, I don't know if there's a better person to lead this franchise during something like that, a better player to lead this franchise during something like that. And LeBron, I don't know what else to say about it, man. The Lakers are just so blessed to have him.
Yeah, and you're right. I think about that moment a lot of LeBron talking at Staples Center, the first game that they played after Kobe passed away. And I've always been a LeBron fan, so I wasn't one of those like, oh, now I root for him things. But that was sort of this moment where it just felt like, I felt like he was a Laker. It was just like he meant so much to the city of Los Angeles, and he meant so much to Lakers fans across the world. And it's he's just got such an aura around him of feeling calm in everything he does. He basically calms you down about off court stuff and on the court, and it's just it's kind of surreal to have seen him. It was surreal to see him sign on with the Lakers. It's surreal to have seen him kind of guide us through that hardship, and it's surreal now to see him be rewarded with his fourth championship tonight.
Yeah, man, it was just awesome. This whole thing has been an unreal experience. This team has just been such a joy to watch, and you go back from day one, and I've admitted that I was very wrong about how this team would handle the regular season. And when I was doing kind of my preseason podcasts and stuff for UCAS Studios, and kind of gauging where I thought this team might finish in the standings and everything, I think I had them winning about 50 games and being about the third or fourth seed, because I really thought, with AD and his injury history, this is kind of an older team. There's a lot of veterans on this team, and plus I had some concerns about this roster. I had concerns about the wing depth. I had concerns about playmaking, but I did think that they would be right there when the playoffs rolled around, and that they would be as dangerous as anybody, and that they were a legit title contender. I just didn't think that they would prioritize the regular season the way they did, but they proved a lot of people wrong by doing so. And that's just part of the adversity that this team overcame throughout the year. Is like they fought hard to get home court advantage in the Western Conference playoffs, and they would have had home court advantage in the NBA Finals. And all that hard work was really for just basically for seeding purposes.
Yeah.
And I didn't even think that really did them any favors. I thought the Clippers at the 2 had an easier path to the Western Conference Finals than the Lakers did. But they blew a 3-1 lead to the Nuggets in the second round. It's important to remind people.
People do forget that.
Yeah. But that's just the thing, is like this team, didn't make excuses. They didn't pout, anything like that. Like everything that was thrown at them this year between, obviously losing Kobe and it really started before the season. Like DeMarcus Cousins going down with the ACL injury, and they said, all right, let's figure this out. They would go out and get Dwight Howard, who everybody mocked the Lakers for signing, and he was unbelievable this year. I mean, he was an impactful player and didn't complain once about his role, anything. And there were multiple instances in this playoff run that him and JaVale both got benched, and you didn't hear a single peep out of them. They were okay. Like they were still, positive on the sideline, and they just understood the sacrifice for what this team could accomplish. And credit to Frank Vogel, man. Credit to Rob Pelinka, Frank Vogel, Jeannie Buss, everybody that was involved in reestablishing Lakers winning culture. There's different teams in this league that have it, and it presents itself in different ways. Miami, I think, has winning culture, and I like I said at the start of this pod, I love that team. I love how tough they are. Tyler Hero's a little annoying, but I love just the grit that team has, the mental and physical toughness, and just how they play the game of basketball. It was just beautiful to watch. But there's different franchises that utilize it in different ways, and the Lakers just, man, the togetherness that this team showed throughout the year, obviously, and it's kind of the thing is like they went into this bubble without their normal starting point guard, and that was kind of a big deal. We still had faith that this team could still overcome that, because we figured, Caruso is going to get more minutes now, and he can pick up some of the slack, and some of these other guys will step up. And that's what happened. I mean, they lose Avery Bradley. These guys all step up in different ways and just find ways to get it done. I mean, one of the criticisms for this team early on in the year was, they're beating bad teams. They can't beat good teams. We just watched them go 16-5 in the NBA playoffs, and probably maybe half, it feels like about half of those wins were absolute ass whippings. Yeah. And NBA Twitter, like, there's nothing you can say about this team. Get out. I don't want to hear any asterisk talk, because, like I said, the Lakers fought hard for home court advantage, didn't even get to use that. All these teams went under the same circumstances in terms of the pandemic, the bubble, all that stuff. The Lakers have been, Lakers and the Heat, and some of the reporters and media members and stuff have been in that bubble for over 100 days. So some of these guys, I think LeBron hasn't seen his family, and some of these other guys haven't seen their family and loved ones in like almost over 3 months. And they stayed locked in on the task at hand, and now we could say the job is finished.
We definitely can. Oh my God, that's incredible. Yeah, man, this team has the culture that you're talking about is right. Like, and the thing that I went back to today while I was watching this game, and I tweeted this out from our account. The moment where we kind of felt a little bit relieved. I don't think it made us become like clear believers that they were going to win a championship. But when Frank Vogel was introduced as the head coach of the Lakers, and had his press conference with the media way back in I don't know when, like over a year ago. That was a really
don't mind me just cracking open another one.
That was a really rough time for the Lakers organization. That was a change in the front office that was not expected. There was a lot of talk about a toxic environment in the front office, of Rob Pelinka not being able to be trusted. Frank Vogel himself was the Lakers' maybe third favorite choice to be the head coach of the team. There were a lot of questions about what this team would be like and whether they would be able to create this winning culture that we're talking about under these circumstances. And it did not seem good. It did not seem likely. But Vogel, in his very first introductory press conference, he kind of had this, he gave us a sense of calm of like, all right, you know what? He might not have been the first option. He's not a sexy pick to be the head coach at all. But kind of trust them. Like he's saying the right stuff. It seems like he knows what he wants from this team. And it seems like he's learned from the stops that he's had previous to this one. He might be the right guy. And I think he very much proved himself to be the right guy over the course of this year. Mm-hmm. And he created this atmosphere. And I think he deserves the most credit out of everybody. Not the only credit, but the most credit out of everybody in terms of creating this atmosphere where the players are so comfortable with each other, so confident in each other, so willing to share in each other's achievements, so willing to sacrifice their own roles for the betterment of the team. You know, JaVale and Dwight are just a couple examples, but there's guys like, I don't know, Quinn Cook was a decent bench player for the Warriors that won championships. He was playing in games, and he really did not play a whole lot this year, but you ask anybody on this roster, and he might be the most loved person on that team.
Yeah.
And it just goes through the entire roster that, you know, KCP getting the support from Dwight Howard early on when he was struggling, Danny Green getting the support from KCP in these finals when he was struggling. It just goes coaching staff, players, front office. Everybody was so connected. And I think Vogel really was the guy that created that atmosphere for the team, and really they weren't going to win a championship if they didn't have that situation. It wasn't going to allow him to be so willing to make these pretty wild lineup adjustments in Game 6 of the NBA Finals if the guys weren't willing to buy in on that. And I think they very much did buy in from day one, and Vogel earned it. He really did.
100%. It just kind of adds to the whole list of items that the Lakers had to kind of overcome, right? Like from like April, because April, I believe, of 2019 is when Magic unexpectedly stepped down right at the end of the season. And then he goes on First Take and basically kind of talks all this stuff about Rob Pelinka and like betrayal and all this stuff. And from that point all the way through, I mean, really going into the season where you had those questions about Vogel, how he wasn't their first choice and all this stuff. And, wondering how Rob Pelinka could put together this team. And I think it's been pretty evident once Magic left, Pelinka really took full control of this team. And he did such a great job, man. Like he kind of explained his vision of, with AD and LeBron, they wanted to get defenders around him, right? And last season it was, let's get playmakers around LeBron, so he doesn't have to do so much playmaking. Which I was like, okay, like I can give this a shot. Like I understand that the reasoning is you're kind of trying to save LeBron a little bit, but it's pretty evident that you needed defenders and you needed 3-point shooters. And whenever AD went to the 5, man, this team could properly space the floor for him and AD and all these other shooters. And it's obvious the Lakers learned from their mistakes last season in terms of how Pelinka built this roster. And I mean, some of the criticism was the Lakers obviously can go after these stars. They've got LeBron, they've got AD. Can they win on the margins now? And that's an area that they had been struggling with for quite a while. And I mean, they bring back KCP. A lot of people kind of mock that. And he was fantastic. I mean, he was the Lakers' third best player during this playoff run. Consistently good offensively and defensively. I mean, I think a lot of people kind of wondered about him after the first playoff game where I think he went 0 of 9 against Portland. But that was also
feels like so long ago.
yeah. That was just one of those games the Lakers just nobody could seem to hit anything. But
yeah.
Yeah, I mean KCP bringing back Caruso was huge. Getting Danny Green. I know people were frustrated with Danny Green this year, but man, that guy was really good defensively most of the year and was a big part of this team's defensive success because, like I said, going into the year, we kind of wondered about this team's wing depth. And it's like, oh, Danny Green's going to have a lot of responsibility kind of taking the best wing players. We thought, he's going to be the guy that gets Kawhi Leonard or Paul George. Mm-hmm. In this case, maybe Jimmy Butler. Obviously, the Lakers have some other weapons that they can use in LeBron and AD to put on some guys like that, which AD you can just put on anybody. It's just absurd what he can do defensively. But even, I mean, some of these moves, I think, with guys that don't really play, like a Jared Dudley, like a Quinn Cook, culture guys, like locker room guys, and they had this belief in Rondo, man, that. And it's pretty evident now that Rondo saves himself during the regular season to be a full go during the playoffs because in the playoffs he had some bad games during this playoff run, but man, he had some really good ones, and he definitely went out on a great one in this game. I mean, and we'll talk about Rondo here in a second, but another move. Remember during the trade deadline, people were saying, "Oh, the Lakers should trade Kyle Kuzma, a first-round pick, and Danny Green for Marcus Morris."
Yeah.
And like that was just absurd to me. Like Marcus Morris is a quality player, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But the Lakers waited, they were patient. Markieff Morris hits the buyout market, and I mean the Lakers bring him in and he fills his role the best that you could possibly ask. You know, he had some highs and lows just like every player does, but ultimately he was a positive for this team. He allowed them to do a lot of things from a versatility standpoint, both offensively and defensively. And just another way that the Lakers won on the margins. You know, you can go down the list. Dwight Howard was a great pickup for this team all year long, was really, really good. Yeah, man, and the fact that they put together this roster while waiting for Kawhi Leonard for what seemed like an eternity to make up his mind, and then he says no to the Lakers, and the Lakers quickly executed Plan B and got these guys and filled out this roster that a lot of people laughed at and said there's no shot. I mean, there were models saying the Lakers literally had zero chance to win an NBA title this year, and all they did throughout the season was prove they're the best team in the league. Milwaukee was in that discussion, but it was still like, we've seen LeBron prove it in the playoffs. We need to see a Milwaukee team that hasn't proven it in the postseason actually do it. And you saw it again. I mean, granted, Antetokounmpo got hurt, but they were down 3-0 when he did get hurt. And I'm glad at least Antetokounmpo did get a ring this year. It just wasn't Giannis. Maybe Giannis can join in after next season, and he can just join his brother, and we can maybe go for a three-peat. Who knows? Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, but
Kostas might let him borrow that ring every once in a while.
He should just show it. Like, that's the free agency pitch, and whenever the next offseason is, not this current one, but the next one, is they just bring Kostas, and he just drops his championship ring on the table like, you want one of those?
You see the video of JaVale? There's a video going around of I don't know if JaVale is the one filming Kostas, but Kostas has his Greek and Nigerian flags around him, and JaVale basically yells something like, "They keep talking about the Greek freak, but this one's got the ring first." Just incredible stuff. Yeah, man. I don't even know what we were talking about. I got too excited about that moment.
I don't know.
It's my favorite so far.
Shout out to JaVale too, man. Like, starter all year long, and then the playoffs roll around, and he's benched in a couple different series and just doesn't seeing the floor at all. And like I said, man, like him and Dwight, like both kept positive spirits, kept rooting on the team and bringing that positive energy, and they didn't hang their heads. They just kept rooting on the team and understood what was at stake and what this team was after. And I mean, JaVale's got 3 championships now?
3 rings for my Nevada boy. Important to remember, one Nevada alum won a ring with the Lakers this year, and no Boise State ones did.
I will kick your ass off this podcast. Shout out Kobe Carl. He got close. He got close back in the day. But no, I mean, just another example of this team's culture and this team's chemistry. Just beautiful to watch. Like, guys, like a lot of times when that happens, like you see it. Like guys are not happy, and I think a good example too is I'm always curious, like when a Finals MVP is named and it could go to 2 different players, how the other player kind of reacts. And so when they announced LeBron, like I was like, all right, I want to see like AD's reaction. I didn't think he was gonna pout or anything, but like he was so like genuinely excited for LeBron and was like, you know, clowning around, joking around with him. And I was like, that's like that right there is just awesome, because we saw it with Shaq and Kobe, where it was like, you know, you have 2 alphas kind of going head to head, and sometimes they butt heads, and that can be problematic. And these 2 guys don't have that. LeBron has said it, like they're not jealous of one another, and I think LeBron probably dealt with that a little bit with Kyrie in Cleveland. But but you know, that's just the beautiful thing about this team, man, is they were all team first, and they understood their roles, what was expected of them, and just stuck to it, and just beautiful to watch. But I was talking about Rondo. I said we were going to talk about Rondo. We have to talk about playoff Rondo for our man David Chia, who is probably blackout drunk right now in some kind of Rondo shirt or jersey. Who knows?
Oh, I don't think he's wearing a shirt.
That is true. Maybe he's wearing some Rondo socks or Rondo underwear. I don't even know. Nothing would surprise me at this point. But dude, Rondo in this game, 19 points, 8 of 11 shooting. He had 3 of his 4 3-pointers. He had 4 assists, 4 rebounds. He played 30 minutes in this game. And it's funny, during the regular season, we'd be pissed off that he played 30 minutes. Yeah. And in this game, honestly, he was probably the 3rd best player. As good as I thought KCP was, Rondo was just unreal, man. And it's crazy to see the difference between playoff Rondo and regular season Rondo. Because like I said, as frustrating as he is, because it always feels like an effort thing with him in the regular season that doesn't exist nearly as much in the playoffs. And I mean, he was a big part of this team winning this championship, and now I have to go get a freaking Rajon Rondo Laker jersey to you know, keep my word on that bet.
He had like 3 drives, I think, in the second quarter, where it was just straight line drive to the basket, and not once did he look to pass it. He was going off glass for the layup every single time, and it was like, who the hell is this man? Like regular season Rondo gets into the paint and like picks up this dribble and tries to pass it out, and that's where the turnovers come from. He was so aggressive again today. And man, he is so good when he does that, and I wish he would do it more often. But man, if it helps him do it in the playoffs, then I can live with some of these crappy performances in the regular season. And by the way, like I think my worry with Rondo was never really the offense, even though like he's not a great shooter, so teams will play off of him, and that crowds the spacing. I was always way more worried about the defense, and because of the effort, like you said. I don't think there were very few times these playoffs where I was like, oh man, Rondo's really getting burnt out there. And like, you know, he's really giving up a lot of points on the defensive end. I don't really feel that way at all. He might not always be a great defender, although he had his moments there as well, but I never really felt like he was much of a liability on that end of the floor at all.
No, I totally agree. And like he had a number of games, but this game especially, he was just, I mean, I tweeted out, he was just absolutely fantastic in this game on both ends of the floor. We kind of saw there's times he shows like flashes of how he was back in like from like 2008 to like 2013, where he's just such a pest defensively. He had a couple moments in this game where he either forced a turnover or was very close at doing it. It's just like there's just flashes of that brilliance and that beautiful basketball mind at work. And obviously he's not the same player that he was back in 2012, 2013, where I think at that point he started to enter the discussion as like best point guard in the league. Like he was in that discussion. And hell, I think against LeBron's Miami team in the Eastern Conference Finals, he had like a 44-point game or something like that. But yeah, man, this guy doubted him all year. Happy to say I was very wrong about him. I knew playoff Rondo was a thing. I was like, I just can't see it. Like we saw almost a full regular season of evidence, and I didn't really see it. I've been watching him for the last 2 years, and man, Celtics fans have to be sick watching Rondo win a title in purple and gold. Like it just warms my heart knowing Bill Simmons, who probably once loved Rondo to death because he was like the most annoying player ever. And now he's winning a title next to LeBron in purple and gold. Like it just warms my heart to know that Celtics fans are just absolutely sick watching that.
Think about it. It's a Celtic basically legend in Rondo playing for the Lakers, playing with LeBron, who is like a villain to Celtics fans, playing with Anthony Davis, who they thought they were going to get, but they didn't because they're too big of cowards to trade for anybody. It's just
they get really close to trading for people, though.
They're always very close.
So my grandpa always told me close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades.
Wise man. They also almost drafted Tyler Hero. I don't know if you've heard of that. They were groaning or moaning or whatever that report was when he got picked a couple times before. Damn it, not again. But this begs the question, and we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about this because it's more for giggles. Is Rondo a Hall of Famer now? He won a ring with the Celtics and the Lakers.
I mean,
he was an assist champ for a while.
I think if you win a title with the Lakers, you should automatically go in the Hall of Fame. That's my thing. I think Alex Caruso just cemented himself as a Hall of Famer in this.
Oh, I mean that's a low bar you're setting. I think Jared Dudley, Quinn Cook,
okay,
Kellen Horton-Tucker,
they're all Hall of Famers. Devontae Kaycock, he's a Hall of Famer now.
Yes.
Congrats to the Lakers on all cementing their spot in the Hall of Fame for this legendary Cinderella story. Underdog Lakers, # we believe championship run. No, I've never been happier to be wrong about a certain player than Rondo because I hated the team that he played for. I used to love Rondo's game, like back in, when he was really in his prime and everything. And that guy, I mean, he's an interesting story too because he had a lot of kind of fallouts with a number of teams, right? Like the Mavs basically just sent him home at one point and we're done with him.
Didn't give him his playoff money.
Yeah, like he played for the Kings, kind of had a little resurgence with the Bulls. Obviously, I think him and Jimmy Butler had respect for one another playing on that Bulls team together, and it's just cool, man. It's really cool to see. Like in 2009, I think I've seen a couple people tweet this, but it's so true. In 2009, if you'd have said LeBron James is going to lead the Lakers to a championship next to Rajon Rondo and Dwight Howard, you'd have been like, what the hell are you talking about?
It's like a fever dream.
Yeah, and like it's crazy. Not only that those guys are, playing 11 years later, because a lot of players, even some of the good players, like don't play that long in the league, but I mean, they were Rondo more so in the playoffs than the regular season, but he was an impactful player. Dwight was an impactful player for a lot of points this season. And LeBron, almost 36 years old, is still the best player in the world to me. And Anthony Davis isn't far behind him. And it's pretty just mind-boggling, man. Like this was an older team. Like the Lakers went in 1 year from one of the youngest teams in the league to one of the older teams in the league. And they were still, from a physical standpoint, just more athletic. They were basically anybody they went up against in the playoffs, they were bigger, faster, and stronger than everybody. And that's a testament to Rob Pelinka and the entire front office on putting this team together. And if you thought the Lakers were good now, wait until we release baby THT next year. Y'all are in trouble. I'm just saying.
But my favorite part of this game was or I think it was Danny who goes to the bench when he picks up his third foul or something. He's just kind of complaining to everybody, and THT's standing there like shaking his head, like, "Yes, I agree with you, definitely." It's like brown nosing a veteran.
Hey, he's a smart rookie, man.
Yeah, he tanked all those Madden games, and that's what led him to be playing in the whatever it was, the second round against the Rockets. And
he was boosting team chemistry too. So shout out to THT, man. I'm excited about his future. All jokes aside, I'm excited about his future, and I'm excited about this team's future. Obviously, we never know when LeBron is just finally, like, Father Time's finally going to catch up to him. You know, you would think it would happen at this point going in. Like, he made an interesting point in one of his post-game interviews that, like, it's October. Like, technically, he's like, this would be when I'm starting year 18.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're in mid-October talking about a Lakers championship. It's very bizarre times that we're living in, but he just hasn't shown many signs of slowing down. And even with, you know, basically, I know it doesn't get called and it might seem whiny on my part, but like basically the teams that they ran into, their response to guarding LeBron was, let's play illegal defense and hope we don't get called. And it didn't get called very often. Like we saw it with Houston at times, more so with Denver and Miami, where guys are just standing in the paint guarding absolutely nobody whenever LeBron and AD have the ball. And yeah, I mean, that's all you could really do. And like, it just didn't matter. Like I felt like LeBron kind of turned it on in spurts in this game and still puts down 28, 14 and 10 in this game. And it's just, I know we were talking about him earlier, but he's just unbelievable, man. Just, I think I've heard a couple people say this might be the longest prime that sports has like ever seen. Like it's absurd. Like whatever wine he's drinking, like I need some of that.
Oh man, he's gonna be drinking so much wine for the next couple weeks. It's gonna be insane. Wine drunk LeBron for 2 weeks straight. His Instagram stories must see material.
All we know is J.R. Smith is definitely drunk. I got on his Instagram live when the team was on the bus, and that dude was not making any sense at all. He was hammered drunk, but I respect it.
Did you get on at the same time as Quinn Cook asking them to U-turn to go pick him back up?
No. Did they leave Quinn Cook? No.
Yeah, they left him at the arena. He was like, yo, I got to walk back to the hotel after I won a championship.
Okay, maybe the Lakers' culture is not as good as I thought it was. We're leaving guys behind on the bus, but no, man, this team was just such a joy to watch all year long. I was texting my dad about it, which is crazy, like the parallels that this team kind of has to the 2009 Lakers in a sense. Which, like, one of my things with I've noticed with when you make like a large roster overhaul is sometimes it takes a year for you to really figure it out and kind of lose together before you can win together. Obviously, there are examples of it. The 2008 Celtics were one, and apparently, if you ask them, they've won every title ever since 2008. You would think that they won 9 titles with as much as they brag about 2008. But like the Lakers, when the Lakers got Powell, right? It's a big shift in how their roster is built. And they lose that first year that they got him. They learned a harsh lesson, came back the next year, and were better, and then won in 2010. And you see, like LeBron's Heat team. You know, I think a lot of people thought, all right, it's going to be the Lakers and Heat in the finals. Lakers get put out early, and everybody thought, oh, well, the Heat are going to easily win this title. The Mavs beat them. And then Miami learned, I think, from that point on, that Wade cannot be our best player. It's got to be LeBron, and LeBron kind of was just better after that. LeBron was, I mean, as good as he is now, like back then was just insane. Like at one point was flirting with like a 60% field goal percentage for the season and 40% from three. Just absurd numbers. But usually, you know, when you go through such a massive roster change, sometimes you got to learn, and the Clippers learned the hard way this year when they blew a 3-1 lead in the second round. I just want to remind people it's been, I think, check my non-existent watch here, half an hour or so since I reminded people of that. But they learned a hard lesson this year, and you know, we'll see if they grow from it or if they make big changes or whatever. But this Lakers team, man, I mean, as much like adversity as they really fought this year, the biggest playoff adversity they faced was either being down 0-1 or being up 3-2 because Miami won Game 5. Like, it's crazy the on-court stuff. Like, they were just so dominant all year. Just such a joy to watch, even given all the BS that they had to deal with and all the outside noise of, you know, people really critical of their roster construction. And, you know, basically after, like, if you listen to media talk all year, it was LeBron, AD, and a bunch of like G Leaguers. Like that's the narrative that the Lakers roster was, and the Jackie McMullen clip it always makes me smile. How the Lakers were going to have to adjust to fitting in AD, and it's like, you don't have to adjust. Like, LeBron and AD is such a perfect match, and tonight was another one of those nights where I was just like, the NBA really let LeBron James and Anthony Davis team up. Like, how did you guys think it was going to go?
Who's going to score on that, like Clippers? You know what I mean?
Apparently Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic.
Meanwhile, the Lakers are out here holding a team to 36 points in the first half of a finals game. This is like, not everything about this Lakers team was certain, but you should have known they were a fucking good team. Like, LeBron and AD, as you said, AD, we can have our arguments about whether he's the best teammate that LeBron has ever played with. You know, you can have your opinions about Dwayne Wade, Kyrie,
he
whatever.
He is.
But he is the most natural fit with LeBron out of all those guys. Because it's never like, all right, LeBron, take the ball. It's your turn. Now it's AD's turn. It's them working together. It's them playing together, playing that two-man game. And it's just when you have two top 5 level NBA players on your team, you're going to be great no matter what. You might not win a championship just having that, but you're in that conversation. But then on top of that, the Lakers had these role players that nobody trusted. But as much as they overplayed, their talent level, I think those are guys that we knew were pretty good. Like, Danny Green is a champion. He's won 3 championships on 3 different teams as well, just like LeBron. And he's as much shit as everybody gave him, and you know, he didn't have the greatest finals, but he's been a very, very important part of this team all year long. He is consistently one of their most impactful players in terms of just them outscoring teams when he is on the court. KCP was good last year too. Like, there's a reason they brought him back, is because he was good. I mean, we can go down the list, but all these guys have proven themselves at some point. Maybe they weren't proven champions or they weren't proven playoff performers, but they were good enough that when you put them next to the dude who is famous for getting the most out of his teammates, like out of any superstar that the NBA has ever seen, the guy that is best known for doing that, it shouldn't be that much of a surprise that they had this dominant of a playoff run, of how good they were.
Well, and LeBron highlighted it in one of his post-game interviews that I was watching, that not only are they just such a perfect fit on the court, but those guys hold each other accountable. And AD said it before the season even started, where they're like, you know, are you going to hold LeBron accountable defensively? And he was like, yeah, and I expect him to do the same to me. Like, I expect all these guys to do the same thing. And LeBron highlighted that in one of his post-game interviews, where there was a play earlier in the series where he tried to throw it down to AD in the post, and he overthrew it. And, you know, he was like, he said something along the lines of, I was pissed at AD was pissed at me, we're both arguing, and before we get like to half court, we're both like, all right, you know, that's my bad. Like, you know, like it's all good. And like, he's like going to the huddle at the timeout. They had already put it past him, and like they held each other accountable, and they said, all right, let's, like, it's in the past. Let's fix it, and let's not make the same mistake going forward. And that's the type of thing that you need. Like, you need guys that, and I think Miami has that too with Jimmy Butler and a lot of the guys on their roster, that Jimmy Butler's going to call out BS when he sees it, but he also is going to respect when somebody does it back to him. And it's something that we saw with Kobe. Kobe was, the type of psychopath that, like, if somebody wanted to fight him on the court, that's the type of guy he wanted on the team. That's not like no, I don't want that guy anywhere near this team. Like, no, that's a guy I want. We saw with like Matt Barnes was the perfect example. I mean, they go and sign him, the year after he did the whole like ball fake in his face kind of thing.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, wait, what? That's signing Matt Barnes. But
Ron Artest
too, yeah. That playoff series, they kind of went at each other. But that's the type of leadership you need, man. That's holding guys accountable and not, these guys weren't afraid to be the bad guy, and they never took it personal whenever, they corrected one another, and they just figured it out every step along the way. And didn't matter what challenge was thrown in front of them, they solved it. They came together and they solved it. And a lot of times it was in different ways. Most nights it's LeBron and AD, or LeBron or AD, but sometimes it was different guys stepping up. And we've said this probably 100 times now, that the Lakers not having a clear-cut third guy kind of worked in their favor, because they had a number of guys that could step up each and every night, and it could be a different guy just coming at you as the third best player that night. Sometimes it was a lot of times it was KCP. Sometimes it was Danny Green. Sometimes it was Alex Caruso, Dwight Howard. Like, it's all these guys, and it was just such a collective effort, and that's what made this team so good, so dominant, especially defensively. Which I think LeBron deserves a lot of credit for how he turned it around defensively this year, because last year he deserved a lot of criticism for his play defensively last year. But this year it was night and day. He was so much better, and you see the result. The Lakers are holding up the Larry O'Brien Trophy and bringing Larry OB back where he belongs, back to LA. And I'm excited for those guys to be able to get out of the bubble and go home and see their families and everything, because I know that probably hasn't been a fun 3 months being kind of stuck in the bubble. But the job is now finished, and now they can really go celebrate it. Obviously, we would love to have a championship parade for it. Probably not going to happen given the circumstances, but it's still sweet nonetheless. So, I'm so proud of this team, and all I can really say is I love this team, man. They were such a joy to watch all year. Low stress most of the way. I mean, there was a couple Clippers losses that were a little annoying, but man, they were just so much fun to watch.
Yeah, I can't get over how happy I am for so many of these guys. Like, they all have such great individual stories, I think. Like, the LeBron and AD stuff is obvious, but, like, Dwight coming back after 7 years, after having such a bad exit with the Lakers and being so hated by fans, coming back and winning his first title in Orlando, where he started his career, and the only other time he had been in the finals before that. KCP in terms of the criticisms that he's gotten for so long and being such a crucial part of this team. Alex Caruso, the G Leaguer and undrafted guy that became such an important piece. Kyle Kuzma completely changing his game, becoming a defensive-minded player instead of an offensive-minded one, and giving them important minutes. Man, I could go on and on. Quinn Cook, I think I might be the happiest for Quinn Cook. I know he didn't play a whole lot, but that is a dude who grew up a Lakers fan with his father who's passed away. And I will never get the image of him out at LA Live outside of Staples Center with the fans after Kobe passed, hugging all the fans and crying. I will never get that image out of my brain. I'm going to be thinking of that for a very, very long time. And he is such a well-loved guy by everyone around the NBA, but especially this team, that I'm so happy for him to get this ring, because I know this means so much to him, and it means a lot to a lot of these guys. And it's just really cool to have all these players that we've come to really appreciate and really enjoy having on our team for various different reasons, and it's pretty great to be able to celebrate them though.
Yeah, Quinn Cook especially, man. Growing up, he's made it very well known that he grew up a big Laker fan. Like had that bond with his dad as Laker fans, and that really hits home with me because the reason I'm a Laker fan is because my dad, and it's kind of crazy because I was talking earlier about the kind of the parallels to 2009. Obviously, it's been highlighted before, but like LeBron going for his fourth ring in Orlando, Kobe was going for his fourth ring in Orlando. They both win in Orlando, playing. I mean, obviously playing a team from Florida, no less. But they play the Rockets in the second round, the Nuggets in the Western Conference Finals. It's funny because in 2009, I watched the finals with my best friend. My dad, I did not get to watch because he was at Game 5 in Orlando. I'm still bitter that he did not find a way to bring me with, but it's okay. But he was there, and I know that was an unforgettable experience for him. And I love you, Dad, if you're listening to this. But my dad also, a couple days ago, him and my mom went down to Florida on a little vacation that they planned. So I was like, this is just like 2009 kind of all over again because he's down in Florida while I'm watching this game without him. But he'll be back tomorrow, so I'll give him a big hug. We were texting throughout this game. But yeah, anyways, getting back to the whole Quinn Cook thing, like it's so cool because he grew up a big Laker fan, and you saw how, and yeah, I agree with you. Like the image of him, and you could tell he was just heartbroken with the Kobe news, like pretty much all of us were. And that's, I know people got annoyed with like Laker fans looking at like certain numbers and being like, oh, Kobe, this, Lakers scored 124 points, Kobe, like all that stuff, which I don't even want to dive into that because I get annoyed with how people tell others to deal with, something that affected them. But it makes this one very sweet, very, very sweet, given the loss of Kobe and Gigi and the heartbreak that we all kind of experienced together as a Laker family, and obviously Vanessa and the Bryant family. I hope this brought them some joy tonight to be able to watch the Lakers obviously win this for Kobe. That he was obviously in their hearts throughout this whole journey. I mean, they're breaking huddles, going Mamba on 3, and his legacy and his impact continues to be there. And it's really cool to watch. But yeah, man, it's just a special team, and I think this team still, like LeBron says, deserves their respect. So give them some damn respect because they were not only great during the regular season, they were great in the playoffs, and they beat a very good Miami team, albeit they were a little banged up, but all you can do is play the teams that are in front of you. But this game also kind of reminded me of 2009 in a sense that we kept saying that Miami, this is not a team that's going to roll over, right? They're not going to just let you win, and we saw that in Game 5, that this team is resilient as hell. You were going to have to beat them. You were going to have to take it from them. And I thought really in the first half of this game, the Lakers just, the second quarter especially, which kind of reminded me of Game 5 of the 2009 finals, where the Lakers went on a massive run and just broke Orlando's will. I think the Lakers kind of did that today. They broke Miami's will, and I think Miami just couldn't recover after that because the Lakers were up 28 at the half. I think at one point it was 36, and it was beautiful to see. After as disappointed as we were the other night after losing Game 5, they absolutely showed a killer mindset, killer mentality, and just went and captured the championship. And they said, to hell with these battles and everything and allowing these guys to hang around. We're just going to go knock them out. And they delivered one hell of a knockout punch tonight.
And they beat the Sunday white jersey curse that apparently was going around. I don't even know what their record was, but everybody keeps saying that they lost in those a lot in the playoffs. Is that even true? I think they definitely lost that Nuggets game at the white jerseys, I believe.
Yeah. I honestly don't remember. Wanted them to win in the Mamba jerseys. That would have been sweet, but I mean, it doesn't, like, it's it doesn't really matter. Like we all know part of what's motivating this team and just everything that they endured this year. It's so sweet, man. It's so sweet to see this team raise the trophy, and I just wish it somehow could have been in front of a packed Staples Center crowd, but hopefully next year. Hopefully next year they can repeat and do it in front of a packed Staples Center crowd and the place going nuts. So
I will just point out Vanessa on Instagram. Vanessa Bryant posted a couple of really nice things about the Lakers winning the title, and that was very heartwarming and emotional. And I do hope that it's hopefully at least a little bit of happiness for them. I know things that remind them of Kobe must not be easy at all, and it isn't for us. I was celebrating an NBA championship, and I saw Vanessa's post, and it made me cry a little bit. It has been really, really difficult for a lot of people, but especially for them. And I'm really glad that the players made it a point to really point that out. We never really wanted to put that pressure on them of do this for Kobe, because that's just it's very unfair to them with all the other pressures that they have to deal with. But now that they have done it, it is really, really cool to see them acknowledge that and acknowledge how much it meant to them. And conversely, seeing Vanessa acknowledge how much it meant to her and her family as well is really, really cool.
I really hope, I don't know if it would really mean all that much to her, but it would be cool, I think, if like Vanessa and the girls got like a championship ring too. I think that would be really, really cool. So hopefully the Lakers do something like that for them, because they've obviously been through a lot this year. And our love goes out to them. I know it like you said, it can be easy to be reminded of that even in such a happy moment, but I don't know. All I could say is our hearts go out to the Bryant family and everybody that was close to Kobe, and hopefully this night brought them some joy in what has obviously been a very difficult year for them. So, all right, I don't have anything else. All I can really say is just I love this team so much. But I don't have anything else. We can run through some chat questions and comments if you don't have anything else you want to add.
Yeah, let's do that, except you're going to have to be looking through roughly 10 messages from Jacob that are apparently just song lyrics.
Jacob is probably drunk off his ass right now.
That boy is drunk. He is. I can confirm this. That dude, I think he's been drinking all day.
We stand our Bud Light drinking king. All right, let's get to this. Caruso, let's see. Yes, we did start with the Ron Artest champion song. It was only right because that was the last time the Lakers won the title was with Ron Artest, hitting some big shots in a Game 7. So had to shout out one of the original GOATs, Ron Artest. Caruso led the game with plus minus. Hell yeah, it fits our narrative. Well, we brought it up. Also, can we talk about that 30-footer Dwight hit to cap the season? That was a perfect way to cap this baby off, man. When he hit that I was just like, yes.
A Dwight Howard 3 being the final bucket of this Lakers season. Oh, just perfect. I love it so much.
I totally predicted that last October. Let's see. If it weren't for the salary cap, how much would LeBron be worth? This is an interesting question because I've always thought, really for like the last 10 years, a lot of talk has been about like super teams are bad for the league and all this stuff. And I've always thought if you don't want super teams anymore, do away with the max contract and let a team like the Bucks offer LeBron $60 million a year. And like, you won't have super teams anymore. But LeBron, whatever price tag you want to list, man, I mean, he's worth every penny.
You either give him a blank check and let him write the biggest number he can think of, or literally half ownership stake in the franchise.
Pretty much, man. I mean, he's proven it with 3 different franchises, winning Finals MVP with three franchises, and it's not like an Andre Iguodala Finals MVP award where like he was just kind of. I mean, he's like a role player that played exceptionally well in the finals. Like that dude is a bad dude. Like. Yeah, arguably the greatest player that we've ever seen. So he's unreal. Like Honi said, hand him a blank check, and we'll just sign off on it. So let's see. LeBron's leadership and bond with everyone on the team, even before the pandemic, really paid dividends in the bubble. Yeah, I mean, LeBron's leadership was great this year. I thought leadership basically from the top down, from the front office to the coaching staff to LeBron, Rondo, AD, all these guys, man, the chemistry was just absolutely beautiful. So is it time to appreciate Kurt and Linda Rambis?
I mean, sure. I don't know what for specifically, but they helped build this team, and I appreciate Kurt Rambis's Twitter likes.
Do not do that while I'm mid-drink, you bastard. Anyways, I'm not going to comment on that, but I will give credit to everybody that made this thing go this year, and that includes Kurt and Linda Rambis. I don't know exactly the extent of what they do on a day-to-day basis, but hey, everybody in this franchise, top down, deserves credit because this was a truly special year and a special team that was just a joy to watch. So let's see, Playoff Gary, Beer Pong, and Cake Stand Champion showing us how it's done. that was a few years back. But I appreciate the shout out. Let's see. Jacob says, "Heart you boys." Jacob, I really like Drunk Jacob. It's almost like sober Jacob and Drunk Jacob is like regular season and playoff Rondo.
I do like Drunk Jacob more. No, but in all seriousness, our podcast used to be the three of us, and I miss you traitor.
Jacob also asks, what was your favorite tanking moment? Because as some of you know, some of you that have been with us for these 5 years, it's been a wild journey, but we started this stupid site as Team Tank 15 on Twitter because we wanted the Lakers to get Karl Anthony Towns, D'Angelo Russell, one of those top prospects in the draft because they sucked, and Byron Scott was a terrible coach. And now we're NBA champions. We had a lot of tanking moments. Honey, I'll throw it to you. I can think of one off the top of my head. There's a couple, I guess, but I'll throw it to you if you have one.
I'll go with There are a few. Should I go positive or negative?
Both.
Should I go one that was just atrocious or one that was really fun?
Both. Because
right.
I got both, I guess.
Okay. The really fun one for me was actually against Miami. Of Marcelo Huertas hiding behind Eric Spoelstra and running from behind to, I think it was, he got a steal. I think it was against Dragic.
Game plan for that, Spoelstra.
That was one of the most incredible plays ever. A negative one. This wasn't the worst one by any means, but for some reason it's always stuck in my head of D'Angelo getting an inbounds from the baseline, and he's like kind of letting the ball bounce for a little while, and he's on the sideline, and he just loses the ball somehow, and he's like just stumbling over himself, and the ball rolls out of bounds. An incredible moment in his Lakers career.
One negative, I guess, I can think of is the Lakers have to foul. Jeremy Lin is not fouling because Byron Scott told him not to foul, and Kobe is sitting there screaming at him to foul. So the other team, I don't remember even who they were playing.
I think it was the Grizzlies.
Yeah,
Conley, I believe.
Yeah, because they could have dribbled out the clock and won the game, and Kobe's literally screaming at him to foul, and just says, "Screw it, I'll do it myself," and sprints to Conley. Conley probably, his heart skipped a beat seeing Kobe look like a freaking middle linebacker coming full speed at him and fouls him, and he was very upset. But that was an epic moment. So that's my negative one. Two positive ones I can think of, both kind of center around D'Angelo Russell. There's a lot that I'm kind of thinking of now, but two that I remember that really were good moments during the tanking years. One was hitting I think it was his last shot as a Laker, hitting the game winner the day that his grandmother passed away. Game winning three at the buzzer, got kind of a crazy bounce that the ball went way up in the air and came right down through. That was a cool moment. That was a cool moment for him. For a guy that was very highly scrutinized during his time as a Laker. Still a big fan of his. But the other one was the Nets game where I think he scored 40. The ice in my veins moment.
Yeah, that's when it came out.
That was the first time we saw that, and that was a beautiful game. That was a beautiful game, and really kind of highlighted what some of us really saw in him and like the potential that he had. And he was just fantastic in that game. So those are the memories that kind of jump out to me. There's a lot. I was a big fan of Brandon Ingram. I loved what he did, and I guess you got to talk about all the missed high fives that Josh Hart had. So.
Honorable mentions to Jody Meeks scoring like 40 against the Thunder and Nick Young stealing a game-winning shot.
Nick Young stealing the game-winning shot. Nick Young thinking he had just buried a three, putting his hands up, and then it goes in and out. That was
so many good ones.
A legendary GIF that was created. So
Jeremy Lin looking off Kobe to hit a game winner, and then Kobe going to him like, "What the hell did you just do?"
Man, we thought it was good times back then. We didn't realize how good we were gonna have it in a few years, but. Yeah, man. You got to just appreciate the moment. Just appreciate the moment. Let's see. Were the Lakers lucky with health? I'm stunned at AD's durability given his injury history. Yeah, I mean, I think every NBA champion is a little lucky with health. I mean, we saw it last year with Kawhi's Raptors. Yeah. They were pretty healthy, and I don't think they were 100%, but they were pretty healthy. And the Warriors didn't have KD. They didn't have Cousins. They lose Klay Thompson at one point in that series. The Warriors ran through a couple teams like LeBron one year, had no Kevin Love, and then loses Kyrie game one for the rest of that series. And so, yeah, I mean, it factors in. You got to be a little lucky, and the Lakers were lucky this year, and that's part of the equation usually. So
yeah, I will say very cool that this happened. Other than this series with the Heat kind of having their injury problems, felt like the entire playoffs, most teams were pretty healthy. Like there weren't too many big time injuries like we see year in and year out. And I think maybe the lack of travel and more rest time helped in that. But it really made for more enjoyable basketball throughout the playoffs, I think.
Yeah, definitely. We had somebody say Quinn Cook, little cheerleader, got a ring. I think that's ring number 2 for him. Is it 2 or 3? I think
3.
I know he got
I
at
think
least.
He got 2 with the Warriors.
Yeah, so he's on that JaVale McGee path. 2 with the Warriors and 1 with the Lakers. It's at least 2. But this one's got to be especially sweet for him, given his Laker fandom during his childhood. So that's pretty cool. Rondo wins number 17 for Boston, and then number 17 for the Lakers. We're not going to talk about Rondo winning 17 for Boston. That memory does not exist. I've deleted that out of my memory files.
Rajon Rondo, lifelong Laker, never played for any other team.
That is true. That's very, very true. Jacob asked perhaps the most important question of the evening. Does Halsey deserve a ring?
Okay, so depends. Well, actually, it doesn't depend. Yes to both, but championship ring, yes. Engagement ring, if she gets on this podcast, I'm more than happy to.
I was gonna say no until she gets on this podcast, and then yes. So
yeah, that's fair. Yeah,
that's the stipulation. And Popeyes, you get a championship ring too, if you give us that sponsorship, because we've been hyping up your Popeyes chicken sandwich for a full year now, and we still haven't seen anything for it. So it's fine. I'll just
official sponsor of NBA champion Lakers Outsiders has such a great ring to it. Popeyes, don't fuck this up. Give us the money.
There's a whole lot of song lyrics from Jacob that I'm trying to skip through. We did get asked, do we need billboards again to get Dwight to re-sign?
No, we'll have Adam Levine put on his jersey. Oh my goodness.
In all seriousness, I hope that Dwight is back. I thoroughly enjoyed him as a Laker this year, much more than 2012, 2013. He fulfilled the prophecy, though. I think back in 2012 when they made the trade, if you'd have said Dwight Howard's going to win a ring with the Lakers, would have been like, yeah, duh. Didn't expect it to be like this, but hey, they got it done regardless. So
his tweet from after he left, where he said or actually, it might not have been after he left. It might have been after the series was over, that first round series, where he said, "I hope I can make it up to you guys to LA." I think he made it up to us.
He did, and seeing his Instagram live, and like he got emotional with kind of understanding the moment and the journey and everything. That was just really cool. And he was one of the guys that I was most happy for, because he's obviously had a very turbulent NBA career in terms of some of the off-court stuff. And it's been a tough year for him and some of the stuff that he dealt with off the court. And it's really cool, man. It's really cool for him to come back and really kind of redeem himself with Lakers fans and get a championship the first time in his career. It's awesome. Like no matter what your opinion is of Dwight, like he is an NBA champion at the end of the day, and that's really all you can say. So, no, just really, really, really cool to see. Happy for all those first time champions. Obviously, happy for all of them, but Dwight Howard, Frank Vogel especially, man. He probably is still like, his mind has probably been blown going from having his best player be Paul George to having two players that are significantly better than Paul George. Which I don't want to rag on Paul George too much, because I did respect him kind of giving a little shout out to Danny Green and what Danny Green had probably been going through the last 48 hours. Really cool. I thought that was really cool. So shout out to Paul George on that. That's it. I mean, it's a lot of drunk stuff from Jacob. Shout out, Jacob. Appreciate you. He also said you have Rihanna, so he wants Halsey.
Listen, we already talked about a love triangle with me, Rihanna, and AC. We can add a fourth. It can be a love quadrangle.
I'm not getting involved in this. I'm just gonna keep drinking my beer, and yeah. That's it for the chat, though. I don't see anything else. Appreciate those of you that tuned in. Sorry that this was, he says it's called a love square. Who's drunk now? But
hey, not every quadrangle is a square, you idiot.
Listen, we're not getting into this right now. We're getting out of here. I'm going to be dragging ass at work tomorrow. I really would have appreciated the Lakers winning on Friday night so that I could be – I'm not even going to go there. But, yeah. Either way, the job is done. The job is finished, and they've made everybody proud. One question was, have you seen downtown LA? Yes, I have, and I hope everybody's being safe. I hope you guys are wearing masks and all that stuff. Try not to cause too much destruction. Be safe. Have a good time, but be safe, and don't put anybody in danger in any capacity. So.
And don't get run over by the dude who was dressed as Mario in a go-kart. What was going on there?
Hey, man, no, you don't ask questions. You just let it happen. So, thank you. It was a great season. I appreciate your support, listening, watching this podcast. However, as always, guys, we're going to be doing these podcasts even during the off season. We're going to have probably a lot to talk about. I think one podcast doesn't do this team justice, even though this has been a very long podcast. I appreciate those of you that have stuck with us throughout this playoff run and throughout the remainder of this podcast, because it has been a long one. But we're going to be live doing these throughout the offseason and whenever the next NBA season starts. We don't know that yet, but we're going to be there. And we're looking to do some live streams during games next year and kind of having some watch parties. I think that's going to be fun. Didn't want to do it for NBA Finals games because I didn't want you guys thinking that I had completely lost my sanity and that I should be in a straitjacket, because these last few were a little stressful. But yeah, we'll be doing these live throughout the offseason, so make sure to follow us on twitch.tv/LakersOutsiders. You can subscribe to us there too for as little as $5 a month. We're going to be having some perks that go to our subscribers, so be sure to subscribe to us there. Like I said, just $5 a month. But you can also subscribe to us on YouTube. Just search Lakers Outsiders on YouTube and we'll pop up there. And then like us on Facebook or follow us on Facebook, just facebook.com/Lakers Outsiders. I'm pretty sure for your comments and your questions to stay in my dashboard, you have to be followed or subscribed on one of those platforms. And because I see them pop up all the time, but some of them don't stay up there. I also apologize for Matt Vazine would be proud of this, but I apologize for the jabroni that was putting inappropriate stuff in the chat earlier in this podcast. Had to make sure that we got that guy banned. I'm going to assume that was a Celtics fan. But or a Clippers fan still trying to cope with blowing a 3-1 lead. But yeah, this
People
was.
forget that the Clippers blew a 3-1 lead. They also forget that the Celtics couldn't figure out this heat zone that the Lakers demolished all series. Okay.
People forget. God, man. This is going to be a beautiful offseason. It really, really is. We're going to have some offseason pods talking about free agency, the draft, all that stuff. Before we sign off, just shout out to the NBA, man. Like,
Yeah.
Those of you that do know or don't know, whatever, like I'm a Titans fan. My team had the first outbreak in the NFL, and I don't even know, like they didn't get to play last week. I don't even know if they're getting to play this week. They're scheduled for a Tuesday game, which like has to be the first Tuesday NFL game in NFL history. But don't even know if that's going to play. Shout out to the NBA for this bubble idea and the execution of the plan. I mean, there were, I think once they got all the players kind of there in quarantine and everything, they didn't have any positive tests. And they were able to crown a champion. And there was a lot of doubt that was going to happen this year. And credit to Adam Silver and the entire NBA for executing this plan and crowning NBA champion. And now hopefully we can just enjoy the offseason and transition to hopefully getting back to a more normal setting in the 2020-2021 NBA season. So, all right, we're getting out of here. Thank you guys so much for listening. Celebrate responsibly. Be safe out there. Don't do anything crazy. Have some fun. Call in sick to work tomorrow if you're drinking too much. Just be safe. All right, be safe. Go Lakers, 2020 NBA champions. Chef's kiss. Just perfect. But we're getting out of here. So with Honi Ahmadian, I am Gary Kester, and also with Drunk Jacob Rude. And the Lakers Outsiders, signing off.
Shout out to Jeannie Buss, Rob Pelinka, Frank Vogel, JaVale McGee, Dwight Howard, DeMarcus Cousins, Markieff Morris, Kyle Kuzma, Jared Dudley, Devontae Kaycock, Kostas Antetokounmpo, Dion Waiters, J.R. Smith, Rajon Rondo, Troy Daniels, Taylor Horton-Tucker, Danny Green, Quinn Cook, Alex Caruso, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Avery Bradley, Anthony Davis, and LeBron fucking James.